All right, we're
Okay.
live. Another episode of Monero Talk. This one's kind of been a long one coming. We're with Vic of Cake Wallet. I guess we'll get into how we met and everything, but I don't know if Vic, if you want to do a quick intro.
Of how we met, or just intro of myself?
Yeah, of yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'm in the steel business, which I think I've mentioned many times before. I've always been in the steel business.
Wait, you know what? I'm not seeing you when you talk. I'm seeing you. Are you seeing your video at all?
Now I'm seeing a still image of myself.
Hmm.
You want me to? I'm using Safari. Should I switch to Chrome?
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
I guess we're still live here. Um, I will give the quick intro. So, oh, he's back. All right, there we go.
That's much better. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I didn't realize that was a still picture I was looking at before. That's why.
Okay. That's really funny.
Uh,
So where was I? Yeah. I'm engineer by education. I've always been in the steel industry, and I got into crypto in 2013 during, of course, the whole Bitcoin craze and Mount Gox and all that. And I think someone's breaking into your house. And I actually bought a Bitcoin miner off of eBay in 2014, and I was mining Bitcoin for a while. And then last year discovered Monero and haven't looked back. In July of 2017, we started making Cake Wallet. We saw that there's no, well, I saw that there's no iOS wallet for Monero. And of course, I came across Monero on Alphabay, like a lot of us did. Um, and realized how Bitcoin is not private at all, and started trying to understand Monero, looking into it. Really became a believer, and started working on the app. And in January of this year, we launched the app. It was, now I look back at it, it was pretty bad. The app hardly worked. And then actually, you were the first one from the community who reached out, and I think that was in January. Time flies, huh? And
yeah.
when I met for beer, I told my wife, "Yeah, I'm gonna just go have a beer with these Monero nerds."
And I may not make it back.
No, I said I'll be back in half an hour. By the way, nice shirt.
Yeah, we should a little backstory on the shirt, right? This is from the meetup, the New York City meetup that we just had. Vic
Yep.
was throwing these out to people that answered the questions correctly.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I had reached out to you that time because I mean, I guess like everybody else in the community, we had been waiting for an iOS wallet, and I forget which was the wallet that was anticipated at that time. I guess it was the My Monero wallet that was anticipated, that everybody was kind of waiting for, and I had never heard of Cake at all. And then one day I open up Reddit and we see like, a post, Cake, the new iOS wallet. And I remember me and Brian were kind of in disbelief, and we didn't really trust it right away because it had been something that we hadn't heard of at all, talked about in the community. And everybody had been anticipating an iOS wallet, but coming from somebody else.
Yeah.
And so literally just old school approach, we thought the safe thing to do would be to meet up with you and try to vet you personally.
Yeah.
So that's what we did, because I think you had mentioned New York at some point, so we knew that you were in New York, and you were cool enough to surprisingly, you're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was trying to be as open and transparent and available as I possibly could be, right off the bat, revealing my identity, location, everything, to make sure, because, reading Monero, I mean, I hadn't been reading Monero that long. I think I commented once on it, and maybe I even knew about its existence maybe a month before we launched. So we never announced it. I didn't check the subreddit all the time to see what's going on, what's happening with other developments. We kind of built it in a vacuum, and sometimes ignorance is bliss. I think if we had come out and launched or announced or something, I think it would have been just too much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And even on the funding part, even when we came out, a lot of people said, "Oh, you should get funding, you can accelerate development and all that." But personally, my fear was then to become answerable to somebody or the community or what have you. So we just wanted to work at our pace and understand it. I mean, and the biggest thing is understand it. Jokingly, we always used to say, and while we were building it, that Cake wallet, for noobs by noobs.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest, interesting lessons that I learned from watching you, the way you launched and everything, was just I think this, anybody that's in the community now, or people that are listening or thinking, just getting into Monero or crypto, don't assume that somebody else is doing it, because these are open source projects. There's kind of like this tragedy of the commons, right? Because because it's open source, you kind of always assume that somebody else is doing it, or you're not sure if there's some permission that you need to ask from somebody. But I mean, the whole nature is it's permissionless.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have an idea and you want to do something, just go do it. And don't necessarily assume somebody else is doing it. And even if somebody is doing it, don't assume that there's no reason why you shouldn't also attempt it.
Right. And I think that's a bigger problem. If I would have gone on Reddit a lot and seen, okay, it's something called X Wallet or Monero or something's being development, you'd think, oh, okay, these guys are already doing it. They know more than I do. So again, I think ignorance was bliss. And you're absolutely right. There's a lesson to be learned from that. Just because somebody else is doing it, you can always use another player. You can always use another competitor. So yeah, I mean, it turned out good. The community was welcoming and harsh at the same time, which I think, which I understand now. I was pretty upset at that time, but now I understand that everybody wanted a wallet, everybody wanted a good wallet, and here was a sign of something that could work. So I think everybody wanted to make sure that it does.
I think with Monero especially, because I mean, it's like you could literally, get away with robbery quite easily, right? I mean, if it was a corrupt version, people start sending their Monero there, and you disappear. There, that's it. You're gone. Right. And I think that's just way the Monero community, being open source by nature, is kind of very critical of anyone that's not following that protocol, right? So I guess what was the story there? Because I remember when you first launched it, it wasn't that you didn't say it wasn't. Was it closed source, or was it you just hadn't gotten around to figuring out how to make it open source? I think was kind of like
we had considered that it didn't exist for us. We didn't even think that would be a question. Again, because we hadn't gone on the subreddit, we didn't know the community. We didn't. I mean, when everybody said open source, tell you the truth, I didn't even know the real definition. What is open source? So to answer your question, we didn't know. I didn't know, and at that time, everybody said open source, and initially I thought, but we're using libraries that are open source. We're using Monero libraries. What's the problem? And then we learned, no, your code has to be open source, not that you just use open source code.
What was your initial reaction to that? Were you like, oh, that's going to kind of kill the whole value proposition here, like the whole business model, or did you not see it that way?
Yeah, I mean, I tried even that, even the internal battle of, trying to figure out what to do. Even that I posted on Reddit and took advice from a lot of people. Yeah, there's a part of you thinks, no, I want to keep this to myself and, control it and all that. And then there was a realization that if you do that, it's never going to pick up steam. It's never going to gain acceptance in the community. And a lot of people reached out. A lot of people reached out. Let me just put this on Do Not Disturb. A lot of people reached out and explained why it would be good. And after thinking it over and studying it, we decided, okay, this is the way to go, and be a part of the community rather than just be a free wallet, or somebody else is trying to provide something to the community and make a buck. So, and I think we are. I think we are part of the community. I consider myself now part of the Monero world. So yeah, we didn't know. And Diego, I don't know, at the meetup, if you remember, Diego, username RareR, he was the one that reached out and talked for a long time on the phone, a few times. Went back and forth, the pros and the cons, and what the Android wallet did, and how how it ended up for them. So all those played a part. But yeah, definitely. I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we went that route.
Yeah, it seems it's definitely working out, right? Yeah. Has there been any commits or any contribution from people other than you got the ones that started the you and the couple of guys you've been working with?
In terms of actual coding, or
yeah, because I mean it's open source, right? Yeah. So has anybody like that unexpectedly like kind of contributed in a way, where you weren't,
no,
offering some code or something? No, that hasn't happened.
No, that hasn't happened yet. Okay. But people did contribute in terms of giving ideas, giving feedback, being testers. And that way there has been contribution, but in actual coding, no, there has not been.
So just to get into the details too, because I think it's kind of an amazing story. Because I mean, the thing about the iOS wallet also, and the wait that when everybody was waiting for it, there was kind of rumors that like it couldn't really be done. It was kind of like the the rumor that was going on, whether or not that was FUD or whatever. But people just couldn't figure out why it was taking so long. And the rumor was like you literally can't make an iOS Monero wallet. So were there issues, a lot of issues that you came across while you guys are trying to code it, or it was just a matter of like anything else, you just had to get down and dirty in the code and eventually you're able to build it? Or were there some like real hurdles you guys had to overcome?
Definitely it was hard. I mean, it took us from June, like I said, June, July of 2017 all the way to January. It took us 6-7 months. Even today, with the network upgrade, the forks, which we call upgrades now, right? And the code changing, the libraries changing. Yeah, it's a challenge. We have to stay on top of it. Initially back in, again, June 2017, we thought, okay, just to test it out, let's just try to do something with Bitcoin just to kind of learn. And we're like, oh yeah, this is easy. We can do that in a few weeks. And then we like, okay, yeah, let's go. Let's start on Monero now. And it took longer than we anticipated. So, I think the other issue is that you have the Monero code being written by the core devs, right? Core development group. And then you're here trying to do something completely independent. And that code is changing every few months. And then you have to adapt your system to work with that new code. And right now we're having that issue. There's version 0.13, and we're implementing that. And yeah, there's some things that have changed, and now we have to go back and redo some parts. That's okay. That's your challenge. Yeah.
Was your developer working with the core devs? Like, was he like bouncing questions off them or anything, or it was just kind of off on your own?
I think between June, July, or December, maybe he had 2, 3 interactions with them. And I could be wrong. He might have just looked at all things that are already posted online, uh, problems he had. We actually started communicating with the core devs when Knife of Pi came on. Knife of Pi 2, something, I don't know his username. When he came on, then we started having more discussions with the core dev. He became kind of like our liaison.
Okay.
Yeah, is maybe we weren't using the right language or the right terms at times, and he was able to communicate and feedback that information to us. Having said that, today I had 20 questions for Monero Move, and I assume he's a he, was very kind and nice to patiently answer each question, and we were able to overcome some hurdles today. So yeah, we do have some interaction, ongoing interaction.
So getting back to kind of your path to Monero. So you started off in Bitcoin, like a lot of people did,
Yeah.
and then you had stumbled across Monero, or no, actually, I think I remember now what the backstory is, but I'll pretend I don't know.
Well, I mean,
if you want to tell the story, wasn't there was like a Coinbase issue or something?
Yeah. I mean, I got on Alphabay because I wanted to buy antibiotics, and so I found a seller that
antibiotics.
honestly, antibiotics. I was too lazy, and plus, I wanted to check out what Alphabay was, and here was buying something that's not too illegal, right? So, and I tried to buy antibiotics, but I sent the Bitcoin directly from my Coinbase account, and literally, I don't know, 3, 4 days later, I got a message from Coinbase saying you used your account for illicit purposes, which is against the terms and conditions of Coinbase. Please move your Bitcoin. We're shutting down your account. So that was definitely an eye opener.
Yeah, was that like a major wake up? Was that kind of like a breakthrough moment for you, where you're like, this isn't really, how is this censorship resistant money if I have a company preventing me from using it, essentially?
Well, I never thought it was that easy, right? I mean, you always read online that, oh yeah, Bitcoin's not private, Bitcoin's not, it's not anonymous, this and that. And you think, okay, for regular people it is, but if you're some, computer hacker sitting there with some super powerful computer and processing power, you're able to do this. But no, it was Coinbase. They were just able to just figure out that where I sent the Bitcoin and shut down my account. So it was definitely an eye opener, and that happened, I guess, in April or May of 2017, and we started development in June of 2017. So yeah.
Did you kind of investigate other cryptos at that time as well, or was it just Monero? Because I remember, like, for myself, I had started to look into, at the same time, like Monero, Dash, and Zcash when they were like, I forget. I guess that was 2006. I don't remember. They were like $1, $5. One was $1, one was $5. So whatever year that was, just started to look into them, and I kind of saw Dash. I was actually a little more interested in Dash only because I had heard about Monero.
Yeah.
But Dash was so easy to start to use. I don't know if you ever messed around with it at all,
Yeah.
but it was like very easy to download the client. Like, I'm not very tech savvy, and it was very easy to download the client and like start using it right away. As opposed to Monero, where it was like I had to like call up my more technically inclined friend to even like try to start using it. So like that was literally the hurdle. So like I was looking at Dash and it's it's anonymous, but then I quickly, with some investigation and reading, quickly learned that Monero was more truly fungible and actually private. So did you investigate other ones like Zcash and Dash and whatever else was out there at the time, or was it just straight to Monero?
No, I mean, Dash was never presented to me, or I never viewed it as a privacy problem. So I didn't investigate that. But the fact that Monero is on Alphabay, I'll be honest with you, spoke volumes to me. That why not? These other coins are much more simpler to implement and integrate and use. Why aren't they using this? So that was kind of
that was a telltale sign.
Yeah, telltale sign of proof to me that okay. for example, they say Monero is being banned from certain exchanges. Okay, then why isn't Verge or Zcash being banned or delisted from certain exchanges if they're so private? Because they're not private. So exchanges are keeping them. But even that maybe had been some FUD, who knows? But yeah, I mean, the whole Dash situation and the ease of use. I mean, there's a certain Dash fan. I don't know. He always comments on anytime we come out with a new version, he always comments that, oh, Dash is so much easier. Why can't you make your app like Dash? So this new version was meant to just simplify the whole, user experience. We did learn. I mean, maybe we didn't learn the privacy thing from Dash, but maybe we are learning the ease of use and simplicity of it.
Yeah, what really interests me about Dash at that time too wasn't so much the privacy I saw as they were saying they could do that, but it was what I was interested in also too was like the governance model that they had going, and basically the funding system that they had built into it.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously I don't think Monero has really solved that problem yet. And just in talking more about how all these things tie into each other. Ultimately, obviously, I think that it's crucial that you be a true open source project, but with that comes these issues of trying to figure out how you fund development, right? So like, you just happen to out of nowhere come out, build an iOS app. I mean, it was just kind of a miracle more than anything else. But like, if there was this kind of more robust funding system in place, maybe things like that would have happened faster. So do you think the Monero ecosystem could use some evolution in that area, or do you think things are kind of fine the way they are and they'll work themselves out?
I think, as I understand correctly, Dash, the miners pay some kind of a fee on everything they mine, right?
Yeah, I think there's like 10% of the mining rewards go to whatever. I'm probably getting the numbers wrong, but go to some fund that goes to projects in the community.
So I see two problems with that. One is it's a forced tax, whether you want to pay or not. Okay, I thought the whole point of cryptocurrency is not pay taxes, but not to force taxes for some development, right? Second is then you're centralizing the development. Okay, and then who's collecting that money? It's some centralized team of people that are collecting the money and paying the developers. Okay, then can you trust those developers? What are they putting in the code? It just doesn't make sense to me. I know Monero, some people may view it as messy, as okay, there's really no, I mean, there is some sort of structure, of course, but like you said, anyone can modify, recode, whatever they want to do. Is it going to be accepted by the community? That's what matters. Not some entity sitting at the top and that's dictating this is how it's going to work. So that's my issue with that, raising money for funding. Again, then the funding team becomes answerable to the community. How are they acting? Are they acting in good faith? Where's all that money going? I think it creates more problems than it solves.
Right. So Monero, I mean, overall, I think that's what causes kind of this slower development on the on the superficial level. Obviously, like on the protocol level, everything seems to be more robust than most any other coin. But on the more superficial user interface level, it's just harder to get those things off the ground, I think, because of like the lack of the funding system. But I think they eventually happen naturally, but I think they just end up taking more time. Right? I mean, that's why
there was no iOS wallet.
Yeah, exactly. That's why there was no iOS wallet. So do you think
where's the Zcash iOS wallet?
What's that?
Where's the Zcash
right
wallet? There's none.
Okay.
There's third-party wallets, which are carrying other coins plus Zcash. But if Zcash, the development team, where's their wallet? And so, but I don't know if they collect money for funding. I don't know how Zcash works. So maybe they don't work the same way as Dash. I don't know.
I guess what I'm getting at, do you think there's a kind of a need there to improve like the Monero funding system, like the way projects are being launched, or everything's fine and it'll organically happen as needed? It's just a matter of time.
I think it'll organically happen because with this, say, what other coin has the privacy on all fronts, on all platforms that Monero has? None. There's no other coin like that. And maybe that comes from the fact that it is completely open and everybody could work on it. You know, if you have a more centralized funding, centralized development, um, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Yeah, by no means do I think,
It's not perfect.
would it ever be worth, becoming centralized? But I'm just wondering if there are things to be done to kind of help move development along so that people are more incentivized to jump into the community, and not even with like building an iOS wallet, but things like marketing, right? So like, yeah, I started this show out of what I saw being a need, and actually kind of like we said, inspired by the fact that don't assume that somebody else is doing it, just go do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think there's definitely a need for marketing in Monero, or maybe marketing isn't the right word, but just kind of getting the word out about what's going on in Monero, and just kind of spreading the word, because nobody's going to do it unless we do it.
Yeah,
And
getting the word out there that it's and speaking of all the technical capabilities and privacy capabilities. To be honest with you, and this is one of the reasons we made Cake Wallet, was all the technology, underlying technology can be fantastic, can be great. But if you don't make it easy for the user to use, it's not going to go anywhere. It's always going to remain in the techie crowd and the real super techie crowd, and it's never going to gain acceptance. So I think rather than going out and marketing and putting stickers on race cars or tying up with a porn company or whatever, give the tools, make the tools. Give the tools to the people that they can use, and we talk about elliptical curve, whatever, cryptography and zero knowledge proofs and all that, but most people don't want to know that. They want to know, am I getting privacy on all fronts? Do I have a tool to use it? And they'll use it.
right.
Like
So
Dash. Dash is so easy to use. Right?
right.
And people use it.
Right, Dash is kind of the other extreme. People know it's super easy; they can use it, but yet it's just, why use it? Because you're not really getting what you need. Ultimately, you're not getting the fungibility and the privacy.
Right, right. So I think Monero is on the right track. First, it continues to. There's a team of people or a community of people that focuses on the real technical stuff, on the real mathematics behind it, and then you have people like me who are making tools to use that technology and make it accessible to a wider audience.
So I had kind of asked you this question before, but what do you think? So Monero fundamentally, I mean, I think is kind of the truest crypto, right? It's like Bitcoin, but plus it has fungibility, which I think is essential. Do you think that because it has those essential attributes, that it's kind of destined to work and become an adopted cryptocurrency? Or do you think, even though it has those technical elements that are essential for crypto, that it still needs something else to kind of catch on and achieve this network effect? Or is it inevitable that Monero will work and grow and establish itself because of its technical fundamentals?
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think the super privacy nature of Monero is going to make it more popular, and the super privacy nature of Monero will hold it back from being used in certain transactions and certain. There are transactions, there are things you do where those transaction details should not be hidden, or the companies that are working whatever they're selling let's say opioids, for example, we want that to be handled in a non-traceable world. I don't know. Will will your tax payments, you know, should that be done through something traceable like Bitcoin? Will they accept it? I think there's going to be a certain type of business or government entities which won't want a truly hidden currency. But I think both can survive. I think Bitcoin and Monero, or something like Bitcoin or something like Monero, can parallelly survive. And I think that that'll have to happen. I don't think one will be the coin. I think there'll be one for your whatever you want to do all the time, and for certain special. Right now Monero is used for special things, and Bitcoin's used for everything else. I think it'll flip. I think where Monero will be used for everything and Bitcoin will be just used for special things where you want full traceability.
Which would be kind of the smaller use case almost.
Definitely.
Right.
But more defined, maybe
right.
like opioid use or buying legal marijuana. I don't know. I'm just,
or like governments moving money around so that so everybody can see where money's going.
Exactly.
So yeah, because I mean, I guess the thing that I always have in the back of my mind is will the first mover advantage of Bitcoin and its network effect eventually create such a large shadow in the crypto sphere that everything else will kind of wither away and die? Or is there kind of like a point at which a coin needs to be large enough by the time Bitcoin kind of reaches that mass adoption? Otherwise, it's doomed to die.
Well, I mean, we've seen network effects. We've seen other products that have large network effects fail. MySpace. Everyone brings up MySpace or something like that, or GeoCities. That these will never fail. They're so wide. Everybody's using it. You never know. I mean, it's just and this space is moving so fast. I mean, I think Bitcoin it'll last. I don't know, because it was the first. We have a special place for it in our hearts, and it's and then the network effect, of course. But never say never. I mean, look at where Monero's come in just a few years.
Are you following the whole like Bitcoin maximalist thing that's going on right now? Like there's like all the drama with kind of maximalists being a little too maximalist right now. And do you pay attention to that stuff, or you just kind of ignore all the drama?
I wouldn't say I ignore it. I just don't follow it that much. But please ask me what.
Well, like the Tone Vases of the world. Do you tune into any of those guys or no? This is what I love about you, man. You're completely above the fray. Just ignoring it.
Yeah.
Building technology, enjoying Monero.
Well, I'll tell you I don't know who said this, guy Kawasaki or maybe Bill Gates or somebody that said, the best way to think outside the box is not know that there is a box. It's just like I said, sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
You can keep moving forward. Yeah. So tell me about the Bitcoin maximalist.
Well, I mean, a Bitcoin maximalist right now would tell you that Bitcoin is the one coin to rule them all, and everything else is either a scam coin. I think there's two categories: scam coins and shit coins. All of them are doomed to fail. Shit coins they're not scams. It's not like you're intentionally trying to scam anyone, but they're basically useless. Mm-hmm. So a maximalist will tell you that Monero is a useless coin that's going to serve no purpose, and it's currently serving no purpose.
Very myopic view of the world and of cryptocurrency. It's
right where the drama is coming in is I think everybody's starting to realize that that's a very extreme view and is obviously not true. Because I mean, even today, Monero has obvious use cases that there's things you could do with Monero today that you cannot currently do with Bitcoin. It's not like hypothetical. Like literally today, if you wanted to go, buy antibiotics, you would be a fool to use Bitcoin versus using Monero.
Well, I mean, I think everybody has their own reasons for thinking the way. Either they bought into for so long and it's become like a religion and they don't want to go back, or they don't think a coin like Monero needs to be in existence where, sender and transaction and receiver has to be hidden. Who knows? But I think most of the people that are probably in there, I assume, probably more than actually looking at the facts.
Yeah, no, I think it's people that are literally invested in Bitcoin.
Sorry?
It's people that are literally fully invested in Bitcoin to the point where they're not able to kind of open up their minds to something else, which I think is a shame, because I mean I don't see how it's been it's only been what, like 9 years, 10 years since this whole crypto thing's been around. Yeah. And before that it was us versus fiat, right? And it was kind of like the same dynamic.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you were JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs, or one of these guys that had everything to lose if crypto took over, you obviously were not open-minded or open to thinking about a world where crypto starts to eat into the fiat world. Right. And now here we are only a few years later, and the Bitcoin maximalists aren't open to thinking about a world where Monero eats into the Bitcoin world, which I think is kind of ironic.
Yeah. I mean, but even us, even you, I think you would also say that we too don't want Bitcoin to fail. And after our party in what was that, in April? May? When was our party? I don't remember now. Years flying by.
Yeah, last spring. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Hold on. Wait, I got to hold that thought for 1 second. Hold that thought.
Hi, everybody. Everything okay?
Yeah, I was just losing power.
Oh, okay, no problem. So, you remember after the party, we were sitting in that room with Coffee Pony, and even he was saying that we can say whatever we want, but we also don't want Bitcoin to fail, because it kind of just represents the idea of cryptocurrency, and its failure today would be damaging to the rest of the other cryptocurrencies 2 years from now, 3 years from now, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't dare disagree with Fluffy, no, but I don't know, like that, like my heart of hearts, I don't know if I truly believe, like we said, like you were just giving an example of MySpace, right? Obviously, that's a different animal. When MySpace failed, it didn't mean social networking failed, because it's a different animal. So like the argument is, if Bitcoin fails, crypto fails, because how could you believe in a store of value of any of this stuff if one day it exists and the next day it doesn't? But I'm not convinced that that's the case. I mean, I think it would certainly like slow down the space, and there would kind of be a little bit of a dark ages, but the technology is here to stay. And I think it would just, it would eventually work its way back. The imperfections would be fixed.
I agree with you. And but it would definitely be damaging. Like you said, it would slow things down. I mean, you go on the street right now, most people don't even know that there's other cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin out there.
Right.
Maybe they've heard of Ethereum, maybe they've heard of Litecoin or something, but that's it. I mean, most people are like, oh, really? There's more cryptocurrencies out there? And there's this thing called Monero. It's really awesome.
Well, that's my reasoning too for why I don't think it would ultimately be the death of crypto, because I mean, so many things have happened in this space where I've just been shocked at, like, wow. But then you stop and think about it, and you're like, oh, because this is how humans are. Like, I mean, just alts in general. Mm-hmm. I never would have predicted, I don't know if you saw it coming, but like the alt pump and like all these crazy alts. I mean, like maybe one or two, sure, but like all these thousands of useless coins that were just pumped to the moon from zero to dollars overnight. And that's just human greed, right? People just is literally penny stocks on steroids.
Right. People are looking for Bitcoin they could buy for a penny and it'd be $20,000. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, if Bitcoin dies tomorrow, I mean, that greed hasn't gone away and the technology hasn't gone away. So, I mean, people would still trying to be would still try to, push the crypto, right? And there would be takers.
Yeah.
I think you would lose, what you would lose, I guess, is a lot of the old school Bitcoiners who would kind of lose faith in the tech. And I guess Bitcoin maximalists would tell you if you lose those guys, then you lose everything because they're the most important asset to the Bitcoin community.
Right.
But,
right. Yeah.
I don't think it's likely that Bitcoin's going to fail, right?
No, I don't. Like you said, I think the network effect and how many people are just in it, and with the what do you call it, the indexes and whatever else that's out there. But never say never. Never say never. Nobody thought it was going to go to 20,000 last year, but
Crazy.
I mean, I remember in early 2000 or mid 2017 when it was about $1,000, and I used to say to people, "It's going to go up to 7,000, 8,000." Everybody would laugh. And you can find my old posts saying that, so it's not like a hindsight thing. And but like you said, never know. Never know. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's such an experimental technology, and that's what I like about Monero. Nobody talks about the price. Everybody talks about technology. I mean, most people that aren't into crypto and they know that I'm into crypto, they pull me aside and say, "Hey, let's talk. What do you think is going to happen with the price?" And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care what's going to happen with the price. It's an experiment. It's a social and technological experiment. Let it run. Let it run. Let it run without regulation, without anything, and let's see where it goes. Either it's going to be world changing, which I think it already has,
right?
Or it's going to die. If it's not, it can't do what it needs to do. It's going to die.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that used to be the culture in Bitcoin. I mean, when I first got into Bitcoin, that's what anybody that made any statement always qualified with, well, it's just an experiment.
Right.
Like anybody, like anybody you talk to. And then that slowly transitioned from that to Bitcoin it's digital gold and it's inevitable. Like when did we leave the experiment stage?
Well, where it's going to go to 500,000 or I'm going to keep my dick.
Yeah, now it's digital gold, like 100% proven. But whereas Monero has maintained its skepticism, it's always questioning itself in the space. And what I think is interesting, or what's great about it, is it's kind of it's a shared value within the community. And anybody that comes into the community because they're interested in privacy coins, but they're coming here and they are interested in the price, or they are kind of like they have that other mentality. Mm-hmm. I feel like the community so strongly believes in the fact that it's about the tech and the fundamentals that it actually changes people once they come into the community.
Right.
And they kind of go through this transition of all of a sudden they don't really care about the price.
Right.
So it's like I think that's a great, for whatever reason, there seems to be kind of a network effect in that respect for Monero. And that's working out really well for us.
Definitely. I mean, you go to the Monero Telegram chats or Discord, whatever, even on Reddit, there's absolutely zero talk of price, which is just amazing. You go in any other ones, they're talking about Lamborghinis and the moon and stuff.
So how do you think Monero transitions? What needs to happen for Monero to transition from this stage where it's, we're just building a tech, there's speculation going on. If anything, it's being used kind of as a store of value. Mm-hmm. There's some use on the dark net. But how do we really transition into this currency stage where people are using it as a currency? Like, how do we cross that chasm?
Keep making it easy.
Is it just time? Is it just
making it easier and easier and easier and easier to use, where it just becomes second nature?
So for example, I mean, I have Monero on an iOS wallet right now on my Cake wallet. Mm-hmm. I could pretty much send it to anybody else that has a Cake wallet. It's pretty easy. What do you see as being?
It's actually not. I mean, it's easier than it was last year, but for the common person, it's still not easy. What do you mean I have to sync it? What do you mean block height? all these things. The user doesn't need to know all these things.
So how do we technically get over that? Like, what needs to be
Well,
done in the design of Cake and things like that? How does Cake become as slick as like Venmo?
yeah, I mean, it's just improvement of the technology. I mean, of the underlying Monero technology as well as the client technology as well has to keep improving and gotten faster. Fees are drastically becoming lower. These are all little steps. Well, the bulletproofs, of course, is a massive step. But these are all steps. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not one or two big steps. It's a little incremental improvements where you feel, okay, yeah, it's not really getting better. But when you look back 6 months and you think, oh, wow, look at the difference look how far we've come, look at the difference we've made. So, and again, yeah, if it was a centralized thing where, okay, so, some VC firm comes in and drops 50 million and we hire 100 developers and yeah, but again, we don't want that, right? We don't want that as a community. We don't want a single entity controlling it.
So like in the back, what are you constantly kind of thinking in the back of your mind for Cake? Is that what the thought is? Like, how do I make Monero as usable as a Venmo?
Exactly.
Or
Yeah, as a Venmo or what is that called? That Zelle, Z-E-L-L-E, the Chase Quick Pay,
okay,
became Zelle, which I think Chase owns. Yeah, that's the idea, is to keep improving and keep trying to build a tool for users where it takes no thought, where they open up the app, boom, and they can just send it, yet still having the advantages of having a decentralized blockchain
right,
because I mean, without that, you can do that today. You can have
right.
a server and boom,
Right.
money goes back and forth like Venmo or Chase Pay.
Which is why I think Cake is so embraced by the community, because you've made that very clear from the get go, and you've 100% maintained it. That Cake is kind of like the bread wallet of Monero. I don't know if everybody knows what bread wallet is, but they were kind of true to the whole blockchain thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something that you're maintaining. That's a core value of.
And we had when we started building the wallet, we would have very long discussions on these subjects. Do we want to build a server and host the wallets and things like that? Do we want to charge a fee? Which initially I was like, yeah, let's charge a fee. And then I realized, wait a minute, then you're paying a fee, and then on top of that, you're paying a fee, the transaction fee. The whole thing just didn't make sense to me. So we had long discussions on things like this. And we ended up with, let's have something that to the user, and I guess in reality too, which reads and connects directly to the blockchain. And there's nobody else in the middle. It's you and the blockchain. That's it. And I think, I mean, it has its problems. Endogenic My Monero at the consensus in New York City, we talked about this. It's a trade-off. And he even says it's a trade-off. It's maybe the light wallets like My Monero may give you better user experience. But is it a privacy trade-off? I don't know. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's. I really don't know. But we talked briefly on that when we were there. So, but to have a tool that reads the blockchain directly without any other middle servers or machines or computers or what have you, that technology still needs to be improved, and it is getting better. I mean, from where we were in January to where we are today, the sync times have improved drastically. I think anybody will tell you that.
So what with this latest release, what were the you want to just quickly explain like what some of the improvements were or what some of the new features are?
I think well, design, it's completely different. Where initially when we came out with version 2, we thought it's a really good design. We thought it looks really cool. And the more and more I looked at it, I was like, look at all these numbers, values, available balance, full balance. You know, what's going on? You know, your fiat value, and it just looked like I said in the meetup, looked like a submarine terminal from like the 1970s. You know, just slowly started eating away at me. I was like, okay, we gotta change it. So we actually hired a proper designer, a graphic designer.
Okay.
Yeah. We bounced around, had them do a bunch of different designs, looked at a bunch of other different wallets, and tried to take.
Okay, don't worry.
But
So wait, how many developers are working on Cake?
now two only.
Okay.
Full time, and one designer was just part time. Yeah, and then of course we have Knife of Pi who provides support and sometimes just moral support. So what other features? The design is drastically different, which we've been getting a lot of good feedback. Except one guy on Reddit said it was horrific.
You always have that one guy.
Yeah, so I mean, to each his own. Design, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Was that the My Monero guy? No, just kidding.
Nah, my Monero looks beautiful. My Monero app looks really good.
Very slick. Yeah, it's nice.
We added a bunch of languages. I'm trying to remember what else we've done. Design, languages. Oh, I got to look at the list. There's always.
What there was the sub addresses, right?
Oh yeah, the sub addresses.
So how does that work exactly? So with you could still make unique multiple wallets, right?
Right. If you go to the receive screen, there's a little address book symbol there on the upper right hand corner. You click on that, and over there you can create as many sub addresses that you want, or however many it allows.
But you could still make multiple unique wallets from seeds as well, right? Because
yes.
Right.
You can do both. So you can create multiple wallets, and within each wallet, you can create multiple sub addresses. So actually, yeah, that was a big feature, and it just.
So like, when should a user be making a different wallet versus just using a sub address? Or
well, let's say you're doing some business online, you're always pasting that same address somewhere, or just you're
gotcha.
I don't know, you're just doing some small business, whatever you're doing, and you're just pasting that same address. Eventually, people figure it out that that's you. So, but if you you don't want to change wallets every time because that's a pain, then you got to remember all these seeds, different keys, private keys, or different seeds, whatever you store. So, but if you create a different sub address, it's the same seed, but you can post different sub addresses everywhere. For each transaction, you can create a new sub address.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed, a lot of these like Tone Vase, a lot of these YouTube guys that would always put their donation address, they stopped putting Bitcoin donation addresses on their YouTube channels.
Oh. What do they put now?
Like nothing, but I'm wondering if part of the reason is, it's like now you could start
seeing how much they collected.
Eventually, they're going to want to track, move that money, right?
Right.
And if it's only going to naturally move back towards their core wallet.
Right.
So it's kind of funny.
I mean, just the fact that in Bitcoin, people can see the Genesis block. It still hasn't been moved. Those coins haven't been moved or spent.
Right.
That says enough.
Satoshi's got to be kicking himself right now, wishing he invented Monero.
Yeah, he lost it.
I've always thought about, do you think when Bitcoin was launched, was the tech just not there to do an obfuscated blockchain? Do you think Satoshi just didn't want to do it for reasons of wanting to make sure people would trust the technology first, or it was just he wasn't even capable of doing? I'm just, obviously there's no answer, but
yeah, I mean, I would think
interesting thought.
I think it's an evolution, right? Bitcoin technology was the first iteration.
Right. But if he had the option of launching it as a blockchain, an obfuscated blockchain like Monero, I'm wondering if he would have even done that, or if he thought it was crucial to kind of let people see how it works first.
I mean, look how long it's taking Monero core devs to perfect this technology, and new stuff comes out every day. So again, I don't think he knew something. I would not imagine that he knew something and didn't implement it.
Right.
I just think I think it was step one.
Right.
And
Okay.
if he or she or they, whatever it is, would have stuck with it and stayed on, maybe this, would have been the next step in the evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Oh, you're breaking up for a sec. What'd you say?
I said I don't imagine that they had the technology and didn't implement it.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, from pretty early on, though, he was. I think some people were even posting it on Monero right the other day. Kind of discussions about, the need for technology in Bitcoin that will allow it to be more fungible. Like I think he saw that as an issue very early on.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, as when you're building something, do you wait until you've built everything and then launch it? Then there's no end. I think, oh, well, after Monero, what we're talking about, what's the next step? Now people are talking about this ovary and all this.
Right. It would never launch.
It would never launch.
Right.
And tell you the truth, that's a battle I have with my devs where I'm like, okay, this is good enough. Let's launch it. Let's go. Nothing's going to be perfect, and you can always keep adding stuff. Let's launch it, and then we'll add to that. We'll keep adding.
What do you think of kind of the FUD that was spread recently too about, I mean, it even came up at the meetup, that guy sitting up in the front was kind of taking that line of thought, that because basically with Monero that you have to trust the math more than you do with the Bitcoin, because of the cryptography that's, allows you to obfuscate transactions, and you can't see who's sending what to who. And ultimately, you just can't really audit the chain as easily as you can in Bitcoin, which forces you to kind of trust the math and trust the developers more. Do you think that's an issue? Do you think?
No, because I think it's not understanding different levels of math, right? Somebody who doesn't understand cryptocurrency at all, or doesn't understand the math behind any cryptocurrency, would view Bitcoin as anonymous, would view Bitcoin as a private coin. And for them, the same question would be, well, I don't understand the math. Well, I don't understand what's going on, so I'm not going to use it. I don't trust it. So the so Monero has that same issue. Everything's open source. It's open code. You can go in there and you can see the math.
Now you gave a great answer to his question, which was you basically told him that he can go
learn it. Yeah.
Learn it.
No, but you learn it, or you have somebody that knows it, and
right.
They look at it for you, and you trust them, or you can go ahead and learn it. But the same thing with Bitcoin, right? He or she had to learn something to understand Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a question of different level of math.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like people think blockchain is the elimination of trust, and they kind of get confused by that. Yeah, it's about eliminating aspects of in society where we trust each other, where we shouldn't have to, which is kind of getting rid of a middleman for exchanging values, so we don't have to trust this middleman. But you still need to trust the people that are building the tech, and it's just like when I get in my car, I'm trusting that the brakes in my Jeep will work because they were manufactured properly. And if I understand cars, then I can go look at it myself and check it out, or I could just kind of trust that other people have vetted that. So I mean, there's still trust still exists. It's just now it's on a different level. So yeah, like with auditing the Monero blockchain, ultimately, yeah, you're gonna have to trust maybe in the researchers that are saying no, this is good. And like you're saying, if you want, you could ultimately go look under the hood yourself,
right?
But you just need to figure out what you're looking at. It's all there to look at.
Yeah,
just need to learn it.
Right, definitely. I think like I said, it comes to the level of math and where you are with your math knowledge. And I tell you the truth, I tried to read Zero to Monero, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is fine. I kind of remember this from third year of engineering, modular algebra. And then I think on the fourth or fifth page, I was like, what?
I did the same thing. I was like, oh, this is great. And then, yeah, literally
and it just
10,
it's like
10 minutes in, I was like, what?
what are they talking about? So, but
Yeah.
I mean, you could stop there. You can, watch some more YouTube videos. You can go to your local university, take some classes on it if you want, or you, I don't know, you trust somebody, or you trust the community that is looking at it under the hood.
So all this stuff, I mean, do you think, kind of just big vision here, like what kind of impact ultimately is Monero going to have on the world if things work out the way they're supposed to work? If we actually get this going, it gets adopted, people start using it. I mean, is this going to like revolutionize things? Like, how are we going to be impacted? We're going to have this money on our phone that's unconfiscatable, that we could zap to anybody else in the world without, anybody stopping us from sending it to whoever we want to send it to. Basically, we become in complete control of our own money. What kind of ramifications do you think that's going to have? I mean, is that something you think about?
I do, and I'll say, I mean, we can think big picture, but I'll say something else as well. I mean, obviously, you think of the normal things. Okay, it's going to lead to personal freedom and freedom from the state, and give you ultimate privacy. As people always say, well, I have nothing to hide. Well, if you have nothing to hide, why do you put your letter in an envelope? Why don't you just mail it open? So, privacy, freedom, those are the two things. But what is going to be the killer app for cryptocurrency? We don't know. We don't know. We imagine today in terms of what we do today. We imagine tomorrow in terms of what we do today and what we know today. Today's what, Monday? We know, okay, Wednesday, we can kind of imagine what we're going to do Wednesday, right? But we have no idea what's going to happen Tuesday, which could significantly alter what happens on Wednesday. So technology, I feel, is the same way. We're always basing the future on what we know today, not what we know, but we may know tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the killer app, the internet. People thought, what are people going to use the internet for? And for a while, email became the killer app. Nobody would have imagined. What you mean? Just sending stupid letters to back and forth to each other? That was the killer app. But it was, and probably still is today. Email is probably the most widely used tool. So you never know. You never know. We can think in today's terms, yes, to buy things, to buy services, to build wealth, to store wealth. But there's probably some use which we have not come up with yet, or we don't even need yet. But there'll be some new technology or new social change which will require that.
Mm-hmm.
I always use the example of sci-fi movies from the 1980s or 1970s, or even before that. You see those big CRT monitors and spaceships, and now we think it's laughable. Like, no, you would have some kind of a flat screen, some kind of a LCD screen, LED screen, or some organic, whatever it's called, OLED screen on your wall.
Right. It's impossible to imagine what the implications are going to be.
Exactly.
Oh.
And 10 years from now, we're going to laugh. Could you imagine we thought OLED, it's all holograms now, or whatever? I don't know. So I think for us as a tool maker, we just want to keep perfecting that tool and be ready for whatever that use is that comes.
Cool. Yeah, that's all I got. So anybody who's watching this who has not already downloaded Cake Wallet and has, an iOS phone, has an iPhone, definitely do it. It's the premier iOS open source Monero wallet. Well respected in the community. What's that? Did I miss something?
No, I was just going to say one thing real quick that I don't know if most people know about us or not. Before Cake Wallet, we did build two other apps, which are kind of shitty, and they're still online. I don't even know if they work. But again, it was about privacy. One was a photo sharing site, an anonymous photo sharing site based on your location, and the other app was a email client behind a calculator screen. So in
Are
mode,
are those still? Can you still download this?
I think so. Yeah,
You had mentioned maybe making a skin for Cake Wallet, right?
exactly.
I think that would be super popular.
Really?
Yeah,
Maybe that's something we can charge for.
I think there was just a post on Reddit today on I forget which. I think it was New Zealand. I saw it on Twitter
What?
where they had confiscated somebody's phone and they wanted access to it. And I mean, this happens all over the world. But there was something in particular about the story where I think they really like just took the guy's phone and went through all his entire, like forced them to give up his passwords and open up his phone. And I mean, that happens all the time. But yeah, I would love to have a calculator skin. I
Yeah.
guess we're giving it away though, but maybe making something else.
Well, I say delete the app.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember at the meeting I talked about that. If I'm going into a country where I think it's going to be,
Yeah, of course. That's the best way to do it.
I just delete the app. Then once I'm in the country, I reinstall it, put my seed in, and we're good to go.
Right.
And the money just boom, money shows up. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. You were wrapping up.
Do you have to? Yeah, if you delete the app, reload it, you'd have to put in obviously all your old wallet seeds. Yes. Obviously, yep. Okay.
And we thought about that. We thought about should we just give a iCloud option for storing this and keep it in the
right
iCloud keychain? And I'm thinking yes.
Just as an option.
Just as an option.
Yeah.
Just a toggle for people who do trust Apple's encryption.
So then basically if you reinstalled it and you logged in, everything would just kind of already.
Right. It would reestablish. Yeah.
Yeah. I think as an option.
Because
not a bad idea.
Yeah, because you look at the GUI, for example, right? I mean, there is a wallet file, right, that's stored locally on the computer. It, which has transactions, which has did you send addresses, and what have you, address book, what have you, right? So recently I've been thinking maybe that is something that users would want, so they're not starting from scratch every time they install the app. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea as an option.
Yeah,
you try to keep it pure to what you have, but maybe you start to offer these other more user-friendly things that could theoretically take away some privacy just as options if people want to opt into them instead of making them kind of the default.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I guess like my Monero is kind of taking more of that approach, right? Which I think, it's definitely, it should be said that's a good wallet too. They're also, I think obviously they're also open source.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the fact that you kind of got a leg up and you were the first one really kind of established, you kind of have like the network effect of iOS wallet in Monero land. And I
don't know, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, the light wallet, I think we're going to add an option for light wallet as well. So if you do want a pure wallet, or if you want a light wallet, we'll give that option as well.
Okay.
Try to give the users as many options as possible to make it easy. Again, to make it user friendly and not just lock them into one way of thinking, waiting 20 minutes for it to sync and blah blah blah. So why not give the option?
Sounds good. What do you think? Anything else to say? Sorry? Anything else? What do you think?
No, that's good. That's good. I didn't realize my background. This looks good. It's very Monero, all dark. See a little window in myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody was requesting like a night. What do they call it? Like a night skin or something? Like a
night mode.
Night mode.
Yeah, and we always forget. Well, to tell the truth, we just forget. It's on our list, and we're like, okay, next. next version we'll put that in. Next version we'll put that in. But yeah, we'll do that.
Cool.
I mean, it looks nice at night, you know. When your spouse is sleeping and you want to send some Monero.
Secretly pay somebody something.
Yes.
Use case. You got it. There's a use case.
There's a use case right there. Yeah.
All right, before we go down that road. All right, Vic. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks so much for this.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Take care.